every time that Anthony Richardson plays football, I get a phone call. They say, Jonathan, we need the best quarterback attorney in the United States to defend Anthony Richardson. So that is what I'm going to do, plain and simple. Anthony Richardson yesterday, while leading the Colts to the win, some fans are unsatisfied by his performance, and as the best quarterback defense attorney in the country, it's my job to defend this man. And I must be honest, he was terrible in the first half. He started 1 of 7 with a red zone fumble that cost the Colts points. And that was just the first quarter, 1 of 7, and a bad fumble. Not a great way to start the game. And like I said, you can't defend how terrible he was in the first half. He was 4 of 13 for 61 yards. Half of those yards came off of one pass to Michael Pittman Jr. that set up a field goal right before halftime. Okay, now before I lay out my case, we must remember that this Miami Dolphins defense was 3rd in passing yards allowed per game coming into it. They limited Trevor Lawrence to 162 passing yards. They limited Josh Allen to 139 passing yards. Okay, and they limited Jacoby Brissett to 160 passing yards. This is one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. Okay, and so let's keep that in mind. Let's also keep in mind that, Anthony Richardson wasn't the worst quarterback on Sunday. You could argue it was C.J. Stroud. You could argue it was Brock Purdy. Patrick Mahomes didn't play very well for the Chiefs either. So maybe it was just a Sunday that every quarterback was destined to not play well. But anyway, back to Anthony Richardson. He started, once again, 1 of 7, bad red zone fumble, 4 for 13 for 61 yards in the first half, 33 of those yards coming off of that deep route to Michael Pittman Jr. that set up a field goal. And that was a big play, right? Because it allowed the Colts to score before halftime, cut the lead from 10-0 to 10-3. That was a big deal. That was the only good thing that my client, Anthony Richardson, did in the first half. Okay? Sure, he ran the ball a little bit. We saw he has this new ability. He has the ability to slide, right? Which, complements his superpower running abilities very well. I do believe, though, that 33-yard completion to Michael Pittman Jr. got him to relax. I think that calmed him down. I think that allowed him to settle in. Once again, Dolphins, one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. 3rd in passing yards per game allowed going into that game. The second half, Anthony Richardson was much better. Okay? Which this to me is actually very encouraging because he wasn't much better because he was ripping, deep routes to Alec Pierce and to Michael Pittman Jr. And like that wasn't what was happening. He was having to take what the defense gave him. In the second half, Anthony Richardson was 6 of 11 for 68 passing yards. And that is a large part of why this Colts offense was so much better in the second half. Okay, Anthony Richardson took what he was given, and the Colts ran the ball incredibly well, which Anthony Richardson played a major role in. Anthony Richardson led the Colts in rushing on Sunday. He had 14 carries for 56 yards. That is 4 yards a carry. Okay? Yes, Anthony Richardson in that first half struggled mightily to throw the football. He did, but one of the best parts about having Anthony Richardson is that he is more than just a thrower of the football. His ability to run is an asset. He worked his way out of multiple sacks where he broke tackles. He had the one where Jalen Ramsey was all over him and he slipped away, was able to run and pick up a first down. He can do things like that, which helped the Colts move the football. Whether you like Anthony Richardson or not, I think we all enjoyed watching him slide, watching him work to avoid hits when he needed to. Okay, the read option open up some big runs for Tyler Goodson. The rushing touchdown that Goodson had happened because of Anthony Richardson properly reading the defense and seeing the hole and handing the ball off to Goodson. The second half, Anthony Richardson was much better as a whole. Here is Shane Steichen after the game talking about what Anthony Richardson brings in terms of the run game.
Yeah, it definitely helps. Obviously, you got some of the QB run stuff that helped, and then obviously some of the scrambles. Picked up a third down there early in the game on a scramble. But yeah, he creates some big plays with his feet.
Shane Steichen there talking about Anthony Richardson's ability to run and how that helps this Colts offense. Anthony Richardson didn't throw any interceptions the entire game. None of his throws really came close to being intercepted either. I thought he made good decisions with the ball when throwing it around. Okay, the case here, and the reason why Anthony struggled, like Josh Allen did and like Trevor Lawrence did and what Jacoby Brissett did, is because this Dolphins defense, secondary at least, is really good, right? It's one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, and the Dolphins did their job. They covered guys really well, okay? And I think we can all agree that in the second half, Anthony Richardson was much better than he was in the first half. At the end of the day, the Colts won, so it's hard to be upset with how he played because at the end of the day, all that matters is winning. As a whole, I thought Anthony Richardson was more accurate than normal. He sailed one over the middle that I believe was to Michael Pittman Jr. Tough throw. Outside of that, though, his receivers had chances to make plays on every other pass, except for obviously the ones that Anthony Richardson purposely threw away. Okay, Michael Pittman Jr. dropped two balls when he was, covered pretty tightly. Alec Pierce had the drop by the sideline at the end of the first half. Josh Downs had a drop where he was covered up pretty tightly. So his receivers didn't help him very much. Okay, while Anthony Richardson wasn't good, it felt more like the Dolphins played well as opposed to Anthony Richardson played bad. Okay, the receivers weren't open very often, and that's not Anthony Richardson's fault. That's on the receivers not creating separation and Shane Steichen. While Anthony Richardson started terribly, as I said at the beginning, there is no defending how bad he was to start the game. I was getting texts at halftime like, hey, man, are you ready to sell your Anthony Richardson stock? And I was like, no, I think I'm going to hold on to it. And he rallied in the second half. He was so much better. His legs played a huge role in the Colts win. That has to be factored into the equation, right? And he made enough throws, obviously. Okay, Anthony Richardson accounted for 65% of the Colts offense when you look at the yards. Okay, he played good enough to win, right? He came out, he had a rough start in the first half. Maybe it's because he hasn't played in 2.5 weeks. Okay, I was not impressed, but I didn't think he played horrendously bad because that second half was so much better. Hopefully, he can build off of his second half performance and be great against the Texans because that's what the Colts are going to need from him, right? And hopefully, this Houston Texans defense continues to be banged up. They gave up a bunch of points to the Packers despite Jordan Love throwing 2 interceptions. Okay, so hopefully we get a similar defensive performance from the Texans this next week. Okay, so once again, first half, incredibly bad. No way to defend it, but he got better as the game went on, as he found a rhythm, and you can't deny how important his legs were in that Colts win. Okay, so if you want to feel good about Anthony Richardson, don't think about the first half. Think about the second half. Think about 6 for 11. Think about how he didn't put the ball in harm's way, which is something that he probably would have done earlier in the season. Okay, think about how Anthony Richardson accounted for 65% of the Colts yards. Okay, he played good enough to win. He's got to be better next week. Okay, he's got to be better against the Texans and the Bills and the Vikings. Right, 3 of their next 4 opponents for the Colts to have a chance. But hopefully he can build off of this second half where I thought he played well. He didn't force the ball, and he just took what the defense gave him. Okay, that is a big development for him. And once again, you can't ignore what he did with his legs.